We will learn testing with simple and easy tips and tricks as part of this channel. And in last video, we have seen how to develop test case and what is the test scenario and what are the templates, and with examples we have seen. And also we have seen like how to write test cases and sample template for that with examples. And also we have seen what is the test analysis or the test basis by which we write a test cases, and what is the requirement traceability matrix, that is also called as RTM, and example and templates also we have seen. And also like we have seen test data generation, like how we generate the test data and what is the test data, and examples and the tools which are used to generate the test data. And also I have given some sample test case template, either like how we write in the Excel or a Word format. And the link for that last video I'll give in the description and you can go through it. And as part of today's session, like we will be covering testing techniques. So this is an important part of the testing, testers. Like we have to know what are the different types of testing techniques. In software testing techniques, these are used for the test case design. Okay, so there are mainly like different types of testing techniques are there, like boundary value analysis, equivalence partitioning, decision table, and state transition, use case testing, and error guessing. Okay, so just start with uh, testing techniques. Like what is actually testing technique? So to create a efficient test suits, we need some techniques. It will help us to design a better test cases. So since exhaustive testing is not possible, uh, we can't test each and every scenario. Like if it is thousands of combinations, we will not be able to test that. So we have to apply some strategy or some techniques so that we can cover complete functionality, as well as it will help us to reduce the number of test cases to be exhausted, and while increasing the test coverage. Also we have to consider increasing our test coverage as we reduce the test cases. So to do that, we have 6 important software testing techniques. I will go over those techniques. It is like boundary value analysis, it is also called as BVA, equivalence class partitioning, decision table based testing, state transition, use case testing, and error guessing. So as part of today's session or this video, like we will be going over the boundary value, equivalence partitioning, and decision table testing, and we'll see in the next video on the state transition, use case, or error guessing one. Okay, so coming to the boundary value analysis, what is boundary value analysis? So boundaries, boundaries are the the end edges, like in boundaries between the partitions. So it includes maximum, minimum, and inside or the outside boundaries. So you will have boundaries for the maximum part as minimum part, and inside part and outside parts. So these are the typical boundary cases, and we have to test with the typical values as well as the error values. Typical value means like a positive values, and error values is like negative values. So generally seen that large number of errors occurs at the boundaries of the defined input values rather than the center. So to coming to an example, like for example, if you have for a username, there is a boundary to enter like the integer value between 1 to 10. Okay, so when you have this valid boundary between 1 to 10, so here we have two edges, like 1 as well as 10. So minimum 1 is a minimum and 10 is a maximum. So at the point of 1, like we have to test that minimum boundary with a error value as a typical value. Okay, so negative value is like 0. If we don't give any value, input, so that is a 0, considered as 0. And how it behaves, it should not be accepting it. And as well as like 1 is should be accepted, so that we need to check. And also we need to check when we give 2, that time also it should work fine. So this is the minimum boundary. And in the same way, like we can check for the maximum boundary, that is for the 10. So as a 10, the edges are like 9, that is less than 10, and on the boundary, that is 10, and above 10, so that is 11. So 9 and 10 should be accepted, and 11 should be like a error value. So the same way, if we are checking for the dollar dollar particular fields, for example, if you have $1 to $100, the valid boundary conditions are like $1 should be accepted, and if we have $1 1 cent, like 1.01, that also should be accepted. And also we need to check 99.99, so that is below the 100, that is also should be accepted. And also like 100, when we give 100, that also has to be accepted. And in this case, invalid boundaries are less than 1, so for that we have to give 99 cents, so that is 0.99, it should not accept because it is less than 1. And also if we are giving 100.1, that is also more than 100, so it should not accept. And also like we have to check with 1 decimal as well as 2 decimal if the conditions are given. So in the picture you can see the price range 1 and 100. If we are given, the boundaries are at the minimum value as well as at a maximum value. So we check minimum and maximum and inside and outside boundaries of that particular cases. So this is called as a boundary value analysis. Okay, so this is one of the testing techniques which we need to apply whenever we are testing. Most of the test failures or issues happens at the boundary cases, and we can find the bugs in particular boundary cases most of the time. And next technique is equivalence partitioning. So equivalence partitioning, some people will misunderstand along with a boundary value analysis, but it is different from the boundary value analysis. How it is different? I will just go over this with an example. Here it allows you to divide the set of conditions into a partition, which should be considered the same. Splitting the test data into the classes, it allows you to identify a valid as well as an invalid equivalence classes. Okay, so for example, the input conditions are valid between 1 to 10 and also 20 to 30. So we have two conditions here, like 1 to 10 also should be allowed, and after that we have 20 to 30. So these are the two conditions we need to check. For that we have to do equivalence partitioning, and when we do equivalence partitioning, we can identify 5 equivalence classes. Okay, so how do we identify that 5 equivalence classes? So first, when we consider it is starting from 1, so we have to check 0, which is invalid. uh, Anything negative or 0 should not be allowed, so that comes under the invalid. And we also have to consider 1 to 10 because that is a valid condition, and also we should check for the 11 to 19, that is again an invalid condition because we are not considering that the given condition is 1 to 10 and 20 to 30. So next valid condition will be, again we need to check for 20 to 30, and also we have to check after 30, that is 31 to I mean it is up to any number we can check, that comes under invalid cases. So to do that, so we have to select the values between these 5 equivalence classes. So for example, in one first case is invalid below 0, so that is we consider it as some negative value. For example, if we can give -2, that will be considered for the first equivalence class. And second one is between the values, means 1 to 10, we have to consider any number, like for example 3 is considered under the valid case. And also we have to check for the 11 to 19 case. In between we can check for 15. So the same way we have to check 20 to 30, it's a valid case, that is 25. And also we have to check for more than 31. For example, if you give 45, so these 5 test data will be considered for the equivalence partitioning. This is how we identify the test data for equivalence partitioning for the testing. So, but in the boundary value analysis, you have seen a different case. That is on the edge cases. We have to check for the minimum value, maximum value. Here we are classifying or partitioning uh, the valid and invalid cases. So that's the main difference between these two. And coming to the next testing techniques, we have a decision table testing. Okay, so what is decision table testing? It is a software testing techniques which is used for the testing a system behavior for different input combinations. This is a systematic approach where the different input combinations and their corresponding system behaviors are captured in the tabular format. Okay, so let's understand it with an example. Okay, most of us uses an email account, and when you want to use an email account, for this you need to enter the email and its associated password. Okay, so if both email and passwords are correct or match, the user will be directed to the email account homepage. Okay, otherwise it will come back to the login page with an error message specified by specified with a proper error message. For example, if it is in incorrect email, it will say incorrect email, or if it's a password is not correct, in that case it will show as a incorrect password. Okay, so this is a given condition. So now let's see how decision tables are created for the this particular login functionality, in which we can log in by using an email id and password. Okay, so both the email and passwords are the conditions, and the expected result is an action. So we have to have two conditions here and one action. So email is one condition, password is another condition, and expected result is an action. Okay, so in the first condition and second condition, where email and password are true or correct, in that case, in that case, like, it will go to the account page. So that is expected result or action. Okay, so in first case we are giving a valid user id and password. So in the second case, what we do is we give a valid username but the wrong password. In that case, the expected result should be an incorrect password. So that we will put is a true, false, and the incorrect password as an expected result. So another case is like we are giving a wrong username but correct password. So in that case, first condition will be fail, second condition will be true, and the expected result or action should be incorrect email. Okay, so and another case we can think of is if both the username and password, what is the expected result? So when we give an email as incorrect or a password as incorrect, both are incorrect. In that case, so for the first one is incorrect email, so expected should be incorrect email. Okay, so this is how we decide on the decision table. Write a decision table, and based on this, we write a test data, or a, for the test cases, what are the different kinds of inputs we can pass. So this is how we define on the with the test decision table. And in the next video, as a continuation of this testing technique, we'll see what is state transition testing and it's a diagram. And also, like, we'll see how use case testing will be done, or how we can develop a use cases, and what is error guessing and example. Okay, thank you, and thanks for watching, and stay connected. We'll learn more about testing in the next video.